Hello guys, and welcome to the 40th episode of TJacks Unpacks and the second episode of 2026. And it has already felt like we have done a full year and we are still just in the second week of January. And it only took this amount of time, just a little over a week, guys, for the news cycle in 2026 to run absolutely wild. Now, before we jump into what we're going to discuss today, guys, audio listeners, I have uploaded the first 3 episodes of TJacks Unpacks from YouTube now to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all of that kind of stuff. So the 3 episodes that were uploaded, guys, are Unpacking where the Democrats should be going following their loss to Donald Trump, Trump's initial inaugural address, his joint Congress presentation, you could say. And then the third episode, guys, is all about wealth and income inequality. So please feel free to check that out. And then please, guys, do follow, like, subscribe, all those fun things you need to do on socials to spread this show across to different people. Now, there's a lot to discuss today, guys. So let's just jump right into it with what missed the cut. So I'm going to start with kind of some fallout following the abduction of Maduro from Venezuela. So you have President Gustavo Petro of Colombia going absolute scorched earth on Trump and the Epstein files, specifically saying a clan of pedophiles wants to destroy democracy in Colombia. So pretty wild clip if you guys have not checked that out. Also, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky came out kind of with a tongue-in-cheek comment after the abduction of Maduro, basically saying the United States knows what it should do next, kind of making a joke about if you can do this to certain dictators, you should be able to do this to someone like Vladimir Putin. So don't think that's going to happen because Trump constantly sings Putin's praises. But nonetheless, that was a cool little, not cool, but interesting little tongue-in-cheek joke there. And then, guys, a side part 2 of the attack on Venezuela is that Trump actually spoke with oil executives before and after the attack, but did not brief Congress before or after the attack. So it's just very clear from that story where Trump's allegiances lie. And it's not with the country at large. It's with rich oil executives who can make him more money. Another story that missed the cut, guys, and this is building off of the child care fraud case information that's running wild in Minnesota. And this is very predictable, guys. Trump is now freezing child care funding to 5 different specifically blue states. So that ridiculous propaganda piece that Nick Shirley put out that was taken as real journalism has now resulted in, like I predicted, the Trump administration directly targeting blue states without any actual fraud being proven. Because, guys, remember, if fraud is proven, there should be people locked up in jail. We will see how this goes and how this plays out. But really, this reads as just a way, once again, to strip funding and strip social safety net programs from people who need it. That's what this reads to me. Next story, guys, that missed the cut. This past week, we had the January 6th anniversary. And it was just really interesting, guys, on social media. Still, people trying to lie about the violence and what happened on January 6th. It is undoubtedly, guys, one of the most dark moments in the history of this country where you had American citizens beating police officers with flags. People lost their lives over a blatant lie. And they were screaming to hang the vice president of the United States. Anyone who says it was nonviolent or just is trying in any way to sanitize the reality of what happened in January 6th, it was just one of the worst moments in this nation's history. And I hope we never get to that point again. Another story, guys, that missed the cut. We have the Corporation for Public Broadcasting formally dissolving due to strict federal funding. No, I want to be clear, guys, this is different than PBS. This is a federal nonprofit that helps distribute funding to, programs like PBS, NPR, and other local public stations. So this is a big blow because it significantly hurts a funding source for, shows like PBS or broadcasting stations like PBS. Next story that missed the cut, guys, we have Republicans like Lindsey Graham talking about citizens sending biometric data into the federal government in order to qualify for food stamps. So guys, they want to drive us and people into destitute poverty so badly, it's disgusting. So it's not about, guys, like eliminating fraud. It's about putting so many bureaucratic steps and confusing the whole process so people just lose the ability to get SNAP benefits, not because they would not qualify, but because they cannot navigate the system. And asking someone to submit biometric data, I don't know if they're talking about DNA, fingerprints, like a hair sample, I don't know, but the idea that you would have to submit biometric data to feed your family from the Republican Party, who's the not tread on me party, is, I don't know. That is absolutely diabolical. It is insane. It's hateful. Guys, it's just a way to strip funding and strip food assistance from people who need it the most. And then, guys, we have more missed stories. So we have the Pentagon now. And once again, guys, we're in the crazy news cycle that is 2026. The Pentagon is now reviewing the effectiveness of women in ground combat positions. And that should not come at a surprise to anyone who voted for this. Pete Hegseth had said prior to being appointed to Defense Secretary that we should not have women in combat roles. So this is all part of the plan. I vehemently disagree with that. But nonetheless, they are now moving forward with a 6-month review, specifically targeting female military members to ensure what the Pentagon is calling, quote unquote, effectiveness. So this is also, guys, part of the plan to eliminate women from the workforce, right? Same thing with the stripping of childcare funding. The big project is in part to remove women from the workforce and to move them back into homes. So that is part and parcel for the plan here. Next story that missed the cut is that experts are warning that the U.S. is in the early stages of genocide against trans Americans. So guys, genocide is basically the elimination of certain groups. So some genocide scholars and advocacy groups warn that the United States may be in the early stages of a genocidal process targeting transgender, non-binary, and intersex people. These warnings are based on patterns they see in policy, rhetoric, and legal action that they argue could escalate towards harm of a group at a distinct community. They use terms like early to mid stages of a genocidal process to describe these patterns. And guys, the people who are the experts that are coming out and warning us about this includes former leaders of the International Association of Genocide Scholars and the Lemkin Institute of Genocide Prevention. Now, to be clear, guys, by strict legal definition in international law, in the UN Genocide Convention, trans individuals, unfortunately, are not legally protected under just strict definitional law. But legality, guys, is not morality. And we need to do whatever we can to protect, vulnerable communities under this administration. And specifically here, we are talking about the trans community. And I ultimately, guys, just don't get why. Can you just let people be who they are? I truly do not understand for the life of me, like, why people are so concerned about other people's sexuality or identity. I, for the life of me, do not get it. I am very straightforward with this. As long as you're not harming yourself and you're not harming someone else, you should be free to be whoever you want to be. It's just hateful bigotry at the end of the day. Now, last 3 stories, guys. We have AI continuing to destroy us all. Specifically, this time is Grok. So Grok is an AI company founded by Elon Musk, and it is now making huge headlines because you can basically easily undress women and children, apparently, using this AI app. So you can do this artificially. Grok Imagine specifically is the image generator that is causing the biggest issues because that is the one that is creating this sexually explicit content, which is including computer generated pornographic images, guys, of real people. So this is absolutely disgusting, and there seems to be zero safeguards in place for this, with the law lagging dramatically behind the technology. So I I don't know where this leads next, guys. I really don't, because once again, there's no laws in place against this. But our law should not be guiding our guiding principle. This is obviously morally repugnant, and I would hope that our lawmakers are, crafting legislation right now to fight against what is happening on Grok's platform. Last two, guys, we have the bipartisan House vote to extend the ACA tax credits passing despite Trump's opposition. So 17 House Republicans voted alongside the Democrats to restore Obamacare subsidies that have recently lapsed. So, guys, that is an important Band-Aid for the moment that will help a lot of Americans as their healthcare expenses explode. Once again, guys, this is not a full solution. Obamacare does suck. It's not good. It's better than what we had before. But until we rework our healthcare system and focus on understanding that healthcare is a human right and not some kind of privilege that's only reserved for people who can afford it, we'll be in a much better and healthier place as a country. And then, guys, last story, and I didn't actually, or two last stories here, and I didn't put these in the show because Trump, honestly, guys, just speaks a lot and bloviates a lot, and it's hard to pick truth from reality and what's going on. But we have Trump talking about basically taking Greenland. I'm not saying, guys, it's not a true threat, particularly after we saw what we saw with Venezuela, but it's just in the early stages, and there's so much news stories that I'm going to hold off on that one for this episode. And then another one, guys, this is actually a positive one if this does actually happen, is Trump is now claiming he's not going to allow large investors to buy homes. That would be a huge win. That would be great policy for the average American. But once again, guys, I'm going to hold off on that until there's actually legislation in place and that's actually moving forward. So, but that could be actually good news. Now, the actual 5 topics, guys, we are going to touch today. And yes, all of those stories, guys, happened this past week. We are in insane times. We're going to start, guys, with ICE terrorizing America. There is no bigger story right now across the country than what happened in Minnesota and what is happening really across the country with ICE. And really, guys, what we want to be as people, as Americans, as a country, in the direction we're heading in. Story number 2, guys, we have another Epstein deadline coming and passing, laws just being broken, justice not being served. So I will give you guys an update of what should have happened and the facts of the case of what has not happened and the laws that are being broke by the Trump administration. Moving forward, guys, story number 3, we will talk about Tim Walz and him ending his re-election bid after the Somali childcare fraud story. We'll speak to about Amy Klobuchar potentially, guys, replacing him. So we're going to break all that down. Then, guys, we're going to talk about Zohran Mamdani and him putting things into action. Universal childcare now being signed into law in New York City. So that is a positive story. I have some really touching videos, guys, from that with Zohran and Miss Rachel. So it's nice, guys, to see some joy, some smile, some laughter in politics. When it seems like everything is crumbling around us. And then, guys, the last thing I'm going to finish up with is I read an article about discrimination in schools. So the Education Department's Office for Civil Rights launched investigations into specifically the Lubbock Cooper School District after several alleged incidents of racial bullying. So I read through that. I have some results I want to share with you guys and ultimately talk about the rise in discrimination within schools since Trump has been reelected. But first thing, guys, we're going to jump into is it's ICE ramping up its violence. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to start with the Minnesota shooting. If you have not seen it yet, I'm going to play some clips chronologically in terms of what was released. So I'm going to start here first, guys, with the original clip that kind of took the internet by storm, which is kind of the side view. So this is not the officer's cell phone camera. We'll get to that later. So let's just start with the original raw clip and what we all saw unfold.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the
So my first reaction, guys, to that is I would hope and I would think, most of my fellow Americans was like have the same reaction, was absolute horror. The fact, guys, that we just fire indiscriminately at people and just take lives and don't like seemingly care before we make that decision is what troubles me time and time again. It's the fact in this country we seem to just not value human life, whether that's through our healthcare system, whether that's through the amount of immunity we give our law enforcement agencies to use lethal force, whether that's how we're treating people who are currently in, detention centers, what I would like to call concentration camps across this country, is just revolting. And this struck me as, guys, I see this woman trying to back up and clearly turn to the right to leave the scene and get away. And I guess the officer, despite the training, which I'll get to in a second, thinks that is a reason to shoot 3 times, 2 times through the passenger or through the driver's side window, and end this mother's life. Guys, I don't really know where we move from a country or move as a country from here when everyone is not seeing this and is not immediately like, this is morally repugnant. We cannot have this in this country. The fact we're not seeing that as a shared reality is troubling beyond belief. But next thing I'm going to do, guys, I want to throw it forward to Kristi Noem here, who after this shooting happened, got on stage and just completely lied to the American public about what happened.
You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism.
So there we have it, guys. Kristi Noem immediately coming out and branding this dead mother a domestic terrorist, which I hope your guys' brain isn't broken enough to buy that, because that is obviously just not anywhere near the reality. And one of the things that I think happens, guys, here a lot is if all of us, independent of media influences, right? If we weren't waiting for like, ooh, what does Fox News have to say about this? Or what does my favorite celebrity have to say about this? Or what does my podcaster who I listen to the most have to say about this? Every one of us, I feel like, would have looked at that video and say, that's not okay. But then you have people like Kristi Noem come out and say this nonsense, just lie. You also had the president, which I'll get to in a second, just coming out once again and lying and framing this person as such a violent individual. You have different right-wing podcasters saying that this was somehow okay. It warps people's mind and it breaks with their individual conscience, which initially would tell us all this is wrong, because obviously it is. Now, before I get to what the policy actually is, I also want to share a little bit about what Donald Trump said following this shooting. It's all up on the screen now for YouTube viewers, but I will read this in its entirety. I've just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and then the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. All right, guys, pause there. Blatant lie. Blatant lie. We all have eyes. We saw it. She did not violently, willfully, and viciously run over the ICE officer. So that's just a lie. Who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive. Guys, we watched the clip. It's hard to believe he is alive. Lies again, but is now recovering in the hospital. He actually, guys, fled the scene. So what happens is he did the shooting, and instead of staying on the scene like you're supposed to, he immediately fled within minutes. So that's what actually happened. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They are just trying to do the job, making America safe. I don't know how shooting into moving vehicles is making America safe. That is not my definition of safety, but nonetheless, we need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers from the radical left movement of violence and hate. So guys, I'm going to read directly from the DOJ's policy of use and force to see, oh, maybe this was justified, right? All right, let me read this. Firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or 2, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense appears to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle. Also, placing oneself in the path of a moving vehicle constitutes officer-created jeopardy and undermines any claim that deadly force was necessary. So guys, my eyes work. I think your eyes work. This officer approached directly in front of the vehicle, or to the front, I guess, not directly in front. Let me be as accurate as possible, but to the front kind of driver's side of it, right? He did not follow policy at all. So he put himself in the center of a moving vehicle. Then the actual driver, who, by the way, guys, the responsibility that certain people want to put on the civilian driver, but not have any responsibility for the person funded through our tax dollars, who's supposed to be the trained professional, is insane. Like, I hear, no, you can just basically unleash your firearm on whoever, whatever civilian, and you are not held, like, there's no expectation of the shooter, of the law enforcement officer doing better, but somehow the civilian needs to do everything exactly right. Breaking news here, guys. The ICE agent did not do what he was trained to do. He is the one who did not follow his own policy. And this policy, guys, goes further. It states that placing oneself in the path of a moving vehicle constitutes officer-created jeopardy, like I said earlier. And this language, guys, exists to prevent officers from manufacturing justification through their own actions. Guys, how I read this 100% is an angry law enforcement officer, we've seen this time and time again, who is upset that someone is not abiding by their directions. So they then think it is somehow okay to use lethal force just because someone is not listening to them. Guys, that is not how America should operate. I do not think not complying with police, when we have a documented history in this country of police, law enforcement, ICE, different, agencies doing wrong. We should not just bow down to power. That's ridiculous. And the result should not be a death sentence. Also, guys, I'm going to play this next clip in a second. The idea that some masked guy pulling on your door, screaming profanities to get out, that it is not a reasonable action for a civilian to actually want to get the hell away from that situation is beyond me, because I try to put myself in Samantha Good's shoes. She is the one who lost her life in this case. And I am pretty confident I would have probably tried to leave the scene as well if a random masked officer is approaching me on the side with this much anger after I have already communicated I'm not mad or anything. I am presenting very calmly. The next step would have likely been them coming in and slamming me on the ground for what reason exactly? So I'm going to play, guys, this new video clip that, in my opinion, makes the shooting look even worse. But it's from the officer's cell phone who actually did the shooting.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
Guys, if you watch that and you think that's okay, we just don't live in the same realities. I don't really know what to say anymore. From his body cam footage, guys, you can clearly see he was off to the side. That vehicle was not coming directly at him. This, once again, reads one of two ways. He was either just mad that, someone wasn't following direct orders. You see that all the time with law enforcement officials, them thinking that they can just run roughshod, do whatever, and if you don't follow, it angers them beyond any belief. And then, or second of all, he's legitimately fearful for his life in a situation where a rational person would not be fearful for their life. So he should not be in that position and own a firearm anyway. Those are the only two logical ways I can see this. Just absolutely abhorrent, guys. And once again, certain lawyers are saying, like I've read a lot online, guys, about this, specifically coming from people who study law. And a lot of them say you can maybe justify the first shot because it goes through the front of the car. But after you have already fired that first shot and she is no longer a threat like whatsoever, my argument would be at the beginning, lethal force should have never been used. But to then, after that first shot, go through the driver's side window, right? She doesn't have a weapon, guys. Like, she has stuffed animals in her glove compartment box. So instead, you fire two more shots, right? That just reads to me you're angry. You're not scared for your life. You're just mad someone's not listening to you. And guys, just to put more context, because I know this individual case is incredibly important, and specifically to the family of, the individual who lost their life. But this is not a standalone incident. U.S. immigration agents are linked in total, guys, to 29 total incidences, which include 16 shootings and at least 5 deaths. In addition, guys, 2 people were shot in Portland, and it was shooting once again at a moving vehicle. I believe it was a married couple, but that is once again just against policy. And in the midst of all this chaos, guys, we have disgusting people like Representative Randy Fine saying just disgusting stuff like this.
The left believes they can do anything they want, and we're just supposed to sit down and take it. It's time for Americans to say enough, and if you get in the way of the government repelling a foreign invasion, you're going to end up just like that lady did yesterday.
Guys, on top of this, you also have like ICE agents now being caught on camera, kind of threatening people, saying, you see what just happened. You also have ICE agents kicking over memorial candles for Renee Good. So in Minneapolis, guys, they set up a memorial for her where the murder took place, and you have ICE agents literally kicking over the memorial and then approaching citizens like, what are you gonna do? Now what? So this is just completely off the rails, and I once again just want to go back to like, what are we now as a country? Like, I don't know anymore, guys, and that, like, I'm just lost for words, because when I was growing up, I guess I was just fed this false reality, and maybe this was never true. But I thought this land was truly about like freedom. It was about looking out for each other. It was about like us being a collective and our diversity being our strength, and the idea that you can bring together different communities. And at the end of the day, we're better as a country for it because we're accepting. We think about everyone. We try to lift people up. We care about democracy. We care about people's rights. And like, I just don't know if any of that is true anymore. I will continue to fight for those things, but what we're seeing, guys, playing out in real time, and what people ultimately, guys, voted for, this was going to be the end result. So I guess the America that I thought just maybe never existed, or definitely doesn't exist in the present day. Now, you also have, and I'm sorry to play some more terrible footage, but it's important for us to understand, guys, where we're at in the early stages of 2026. We have Jesse Waters, Fox News propagandist, with the most loud, I wouldn't even call it a dog whistle, because he's just throwing this meat out to his base, just defaming and trying to dehumanize Renee Good, once again, the person who was murdered in this situation.
The woman who lost her life was a self-proclaimed poet from Colorado, with pronouns in her bio. A 37-year-old white woman named Renee Good. The Daily Mail says she leaves behind a lesbian partner and a child from a previous marriage. She was a disruptor, though she considered herself a legal observer. But there's no evidence she had a law degree.
This, guys, is just gross. It's disgusting, right? They're trying to put all these labels that they think that, and I hope I hope this does not work. I really don't. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to attach these labels to her so that some people in right-wing space will then justify it because she was a member of the wrong team. Guys, if someone with a MAGA hat did that and was shot, I would be just as disgusted by it as it was if it was someone from the LGBTQ plus community, as if it was a black person, as like it. The disgusting dehumanizing there by Jesse Waters and Fox News. The fact, guys, we're at the stage where that makes it to air, and that is the biggest cable news company that reaches viewers, at least cable-wise, in the United States is, once again, I just don't know what to say. I don't know what's going on. We are free-falling so drastically quickly as a country. I don't know how we recover. And guys, part of this is because who we have in control of a lot of this immigration, which is Stephen Miller. And there has been a lot of unearthed footage, guys, about how absolutely insane this human being is, and the fact he should be nowhere near the White House at all. And quite frankly, you should be in no position of power. So I'm going to actually play this insane footage, guys, where Stephen Miller is talking about the importance and the value of torture. And keep in mind, guys, this is someone with direct ties to Donald Trump, is in control of a lot of what we see with immigration right now. So here we go.
That's what Saddam Hussein and his henchmen. I think the ideal solution would be to cut off their fingers. I don't think it's necessary to kill them entirely. We're not a barbaric people. We respect life. Therefore, torture is the way to go. Because torture people can live. Torture is a celebration of life and human dignity. We need to remember that as we enter these very dark and dangerous times in the next century. And I only hope that many of my peers and people who will be leading this country will appreciate the value and respect that torture shows towards other cultures. Apparently, you're supposed to go to bed at nighttime. Usually, I sit in my room like this. Ha! Ha! Ha!
So you guys tell me if that seems like someone who's stable, who should be working in our federal government. I certainly have opinion on that. I hope you guys see someone like that and think they need to be probably getting mental health treatment, not running anything with, immigration in the country. That's at least how I take that individual. Now, guys, kind of what is the fallout for this? What is this going to look like? Is there going to be charges brought against this individual? Unfortunately, where we're at now, guys, is the investigation has moved to the federal level. We also have the Vice President, J.D. Vance, saying that the ICE agent now has complete immunity, which is just, you can't just say that and make that true. So I'm just confused. Also, by seeing that video, the fact he would then come out and say that is repulsive to begin with. But guys, I'm going to be real here. I do not think the ICE agent is going to spend any time in jail because the way our laws are written, it gives incredible leeway to our law enforcement. It is basically, guys, if a law enforcement officer can vaguely say, I felt threatened, they can use deadly force. And that's just what we've accepted as a country. That is the way our legal system is written. Guys, Tamir Rice was, I think, 12. He was playing with a gun. He got murdered. The cops did not go to jail. Breonna Taylor got shot up in her house. There were no repercussions there. There's case after case after case. That does not make it correct. Right, guys, legality is not morality. Should this officer go to jail? Absolutely. That is ridiculous. Morally, that should not be okay. Legally, I do not think he will spend a single day in jail. I hope I'm wrong, because what I just witnessed with my own 2 eyes was a murder. But I just, guys, from what I've seen from the U.S. judicial system and what I know with the law, maybe because of those second 2 shots, but it's hard pressed for me to think this person will actually spend any time in jail, as disgusting as that sounds. My only kind of hope here, guys, and once again, we're going to be real here, is when it is a person of color shot, the country seems to not have the same level of empathy generally for that person for whatever reason. But because more people can relate to this white mother dropping her kid off at school and then not being able to make it back to their child that same day, I think this is going to resonate with a lot more people. So I think it may increase the likelihood. Also, guys, quite frankly, the way people view ICE is not the same way people view their local law enforcement. So local law enforcement tends to have a lot higher favorability than ICE. So that can also play a role. But guys, I'm just going to be real. I don't think a lot's going to come with this in terms of legally. There is a House Democrat, Robin Kelly from Illinois, who is moving to impeach Kristi Noem based on her just flat out lying. But once again, I don't know how much is going to come out of this. I also want to mention, guys, there are some camps talking about shooting the tire. And I know that's in good faith, but guys, that is not how law enforcement is trained, and I don't think that is how they should be trained. The problem here is not with just shooting the tire, guys. It's with the fact deadly force was used at all. When a law enforcement officer, guys, or a civilian, when you use a gun, you are enacting deadly force. That is, when you fire the trigger, it doesn't matter if you're shooting at a tire, shooting at a person, you are making the decision to use deadly force. So law enforcement officers, guys, are not trained to shoot at like a tire, because what if it hits the hubcap and ricochets, right? Also, guys, shooting the front tire would not have stopped the car in its full momentum. So that logically, guys, is not in line with how law enforcement are trained. I don't think it's how law enforcement should be trained, just to randomly shoot at different objects, guys. That's just going to increase the amount of shootings, and it's going to lead to more injuries and deaths if you're saying, no, you can use your gun to shoot at tires. You can use your gun to shoot at different obstacles. No, that you guys definitely do not want that. A gun is lethal force. The problem, guys, was the fact this officer either felt, once again, threatened enough to think that that was justifiable use of lethal force, or they were just so angry that they wanted to shoot this person, really, at the end of the day. I want to finish this story, guys, and then we're actually going to take a break after the first story, just talking a little bit about Renee Nicole Good. She was an award-winning poet who liked to explore love, faith, and the cycles of life and death in her poetry. Once again, she leaves behind, I believe it is 2 children. And then just kind of the last thing too, her family, who started a GoFundMe. And guys, I think this speaks a lot to the character of Renee Good and who she surrounded herself by. And this runs directly counterintuitive to the idea she's somehow a domestic terrorist. Her family actually shut down the GoFundMe already because they received more money than they could ever hope for. So instead of continuing the cash flow, they recognize, you know what, guys, this is not about money. I'm not going to grift off this. And I just think that speaks very strongly to the character of who Renee Nicole Good surrounded herself by, but also her herself. Because generally, guys, you don't surround yourself, or good people tend to surround themselves by people who would do things like that, and vice versa. So we will see how this kind of pans out, guys. I just want all of us truly as Americans to think about the direction we're heading in, the country we live in, in the fact that if we are allowing ICE agents to just use deadly force and this is justifiable, there is going to be a lot more of this taking place across American soil, with federal agents just murdering citizens in cold blood. All right, guys, I normally don't do this, but I'm going to take a break after this first story, and we will come back to discuss Epstein. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.